Right, we're going to be doing 4 Parashiot, small Parashiot, the last Parashiot, Parashat Nitzavim, Vayelech, Haazinu, Vzot, Haberacha. A little bit of each one of them. There's actually quite a bit of information, and perhaps we can do several years, these Parashiot, and we will never finish. But I'm going to cover the most important point. Moshe Rabbeinu is about to pass away. Am Yisrael is about to enter Eretz Israel. They're not going to be necessarily on their own. They're going to have leaders. They're going to have Yeshua to begin with. Later they're going to have the Zekinim, the Shoftim, Nevi'im, leaders. There have been periods throughout Jewish history, periods of weakness because of the various circumstances, either influences from the Goyim or simple human nature. In other words, despite the fact that one may have a leader, despite the fact that one may have good parents, we all have free will, and we're all subject to the influences, and we need continuous reminders to stay on track. If we don't have these reminders, we get carried away. And Moshe Rabbeinu is aware that this is unfortunately what will happen in the future after he's gone. Even while he was alive, there was trouble. Kosher came when he will be gone. But not only will he be gone, the miracles that were apparent and that were so clear and vivid to Am Yisrael and Midvar, they're not going to be so clear and obvious later on. There were times during the Beit HaMikdash, especially the first one, that miracles were open, right? We had prophets, something that we didn't have later on, something that was lacking in future generations. And because of that, many Jews unfortunately turned away. Right? The more things were obvious, the stronger the generation was. It was more likely that everybody, even the weaker ones, would stay in line. But that's a fact. There will always be weaker and stronger amongst Am Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu, right before he departs, gives them a lot of words of musar, a lot of good advice, and he tells them, Atem Nitzavim hayom kulechem lifnei Hashem Elokechem, Roshechem, Shoftechem, Ziknechem, Veshotrechem, Kol Ish Yisrael. Everybody is standing before Hashem today. These words, Atem Nitzavim, always of course come out right before Rosh Hashanah, which is the Yom Hadin. That is when all of us, not only the Jewish nation, but all of the world, all humans, stand before Borei Olam in judgment. And there are no favorites. Everybody, young and old, the police, the heads of the tribe, everybody is the same when it comes before judgment. Everybody is judged. What is Moshe Rabbeinu trying to tell us over here? Moshe Rabbeinu is obviously encouraging Am Yisrael in a very unique way. His encouragement is to soften our hearts. Encouragement that even if Chaz v'Shalom, you've strayed away, even if you've done something bad, even if you've committed a sin, he's encouraging them to soften our hearts to do teshuvah, because Hashem will accept teshuvah. He'll come back. In other words, don't give up. Remember what I'm telling you. Remember what I've told you all along in the desert, that Kadosh Baruch Hu will look out for you. He's made a covenant with us. He will not abandon us. And he expects you also not to abandon him. And he goes on to say that this, what I'm about to tell you, applies to everybody, even the children and even the women, and even the most simplest of people, even from those who chop the wood and those who draw water from the well. Everybody is part of the covenant. And he reminds us that we are always standing before Hashem in judgment. This judgment, as we know it, is once a year. But in reality, the Sifrei Kabbalah tells us that there is judgment not only once a year, there is judgment every day on all the ma'asim, on all the deeds that one has performed during the day. There's a mini judgment every night when the neshama goes up. And then there is a judgment once a year for all that was done during that year. Including the days. Yes, and then there's a judgment upon one's death for all that he has done throughout his lifetime. And then there will also be a judgment in Yom Hadin Gadol V'Norah, the biggest day of judgment of all, after Tahiyat HaMetim. Around that time, when those that will live will come back, but will first be judged on all their Gilgulim, on all their reincarnations.
And they will die and come back again?
No. And then it will be decided which Gilgul, or which reincarnation, has a Chelek Olam Haba on that. Right? Because an individual may have been here several times, and there's bits and pieces of
they
it.
die again.
Right? No. For those that do not have a Chelek Olam Haba, that's it. They cease to exist.
Only if every Gilgul was...
But they will rise for judgment.
The neshama disappear too?
What?
The neshama will disappear also.
Yeah, everything, if he doesn't have a Chelek L'Olam Haba. But obviously this is only the biggest Reshaim. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem Chelek L'Olam Haba. They have a part. Usually, hopefully, between all the Gilgulim, they made a tikkun. They were able to atone for the sin. Yeah, but it can be that one part of his Gilgulim was not good. In any event, as we can see from this, there are judgments several times during one's life. There is the judgment, the famous one on Rosh Hashanah, but there's also the judgment that occurs on every night. The differences are significant. Rosh Hashanah is a major day of judgment. We are very concerned, more concerned about it than every single night when we go to sleep. Major decisions are made on Rosh Hashanah. These major decisions are not made every night. What every night can happen is if somebody was really, really bad, they did something terribly wrong, right? Then they can decide to send him a message, to send him a signal. Because after all, the rabbis tell us that when bad things happen to us, when we suffer, it is a signal, some sort of signal, besides the fact that it's going to be an atonement for our sins. Because every pain and suffering atones. Every pain and suffering. But at the same time, it's always a signal. It's a message. Examine your deeds. So that message may come about from judgment every night. They may decide tomorrow we're going to send him a message. His parents or grandparents that are in heaven are crying, right? They're sad because of what he just did. It doesn't fit their family. He was a bad boy. So they have to somehow restore him back, bring him back.
Through what, a halom or something?
Through a halom, through a bad dream, or through something that will happen, an accident to him. They have to shake him up. And this may not be a one-time event. It may be several things until he wakes up. Hopefully he will, but not everybody does. So anyway, so Moshe Rabbeinu tells us that everyone is included, everyone is being told this, and everybody can get a message, some more powerful than others. Now, why is it that some people, even if they're getting continuous messages, they don't get it? It doesn't shake them up, it doesn't awaken their attention. Yeah, they don't even pay attention. What is it for? So the Magid of Vilna gives an example. Because there was once a farmer who came to the big city, and he saw a tremendous invention. He discovered something that is so useful. He went into the shop of a smith. You know what a smith is?
Yes,
I bellows and all that. And he sees that how does he make fire? With bellows. It's great, where can I buy one? So he told him, you can get one down the block. He went, he came to his little village, told everybody, I found a great and easy way to make fire. Remember, it's not like today that we have lights and electricity. To make fire was not easy. So he brings it out and he starts doing this and nothing happened. So they all made fun of him. Why did you waste your money? So he went back to complain, to get his money back from the shop owner. What did you tell me? Something defective? Bellows. You know what a bellows is? Souffle.
Causes the air to fan the flame.
Yemfoch.
Yeah. Mapuch in Hebrew. So the shop owner asked him, how did you use it? He says, I did this, just like I saw by the smith. He said, you fool. You first have to have a spark. Once you have a spark, this helps to make it a big flame. If you don't start with a spark, you'll never get any fire out of it.
Fan the flame.
Same thing Magid of Dugna explains. Most Jews have a spark. There's a Jewish spark there, and he hears a little bit of Dvar Torah. He reads a little bit. He receives a message. These things will hopefully bring out that spark in him and make it into a big fire, and he will come back. But if the spark has died down, it becomes very, very difficult. And unfortunately, some people have allowed it, and we will see how that happens, have allowed it to completely die out. And then it's very, very difficult to bring them back. People have become so distant from Judaism that it becomes very difficult to bring them back. It's like, I don't want to say that the spark is completely gone, but it's like the spark has died down. Then of course it becomes very difficult to impress upon them anything. So that we still need to understand is how it happens that one has become so distant and why it becomes so difficult even if he's that we still need to understand. So the Torah gives us 3 examples of individuals who it becomes very difficult to bring them. The first one is והיה בשומעו דברי העלה הזאת והתברך בלבבו לאמור שלום יהיה לי כי בשרירות ליבי אלך There are three individuals, difficult individuals who have a hard time doing the Shuvah. One of them is the one that says, Shalom Yeli, everything will be okay. No problem. Vayelech. I want to do whatever I want to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. Did you ever hear somebody express himself that way? Nobody's going to tell me what to do, Isaac, right? Yeah. It's a very terrible attitude. What does Hashem say about such an individual? Lo yoveh Hashem selo achlo. Hashem will not want to forgive him.
When you come to
כי אז יעשן השם וקנאתו באיש ההוא ברבצה בכל הלך כתובה בספר הזה. Oy vavoy, the person says, I'm going to do whatever I want. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. Everything's going to be
religion, right?
Oh, talk about religion.
Culture and that.
Sure, everything. I will do what I want. Halila, somebody has this attitude, Lo yoveh Hashem selo achlo, Hashem will not forgive him. Now what does it mean Hashem will not forgive him? Hashem forgives everybody. The person does the Shuvah, Hashem will forgive him no matter how big of a Rasha he is. But if you read the Rambam, in Chot Teshuvah, the Rambam says one of the most difficult Teshuvot is one who has strayed so far, who has become so distant. It's not that Hashem does not offer him Teshuvah, it's not that Hashem does not forgive him. It's that it becomes so difficult for him that he doesn't want to do it. And Hashem doesn't help him. See, on the very, very low levels of sin, when a Jew is not too distant, Hashem actually helps. And reminders and message, and he sends him a good friend, and he makes sure he will hear a good word, and he can come back. Somebody who has strayed so far and has had this kind of an attitude, Hashem doesn't help him out. If he comes back on his own, Hashem of course will accept him with open arms, anybody. But Hashem will not make it easy for him. Lo yoveh Hashem selo achlo, Hashem will not make it easy for him to come back. People have come back to Tshuva in all sorts of ways. There was even one who was very, very distant from Judaism, like the Reform, completely rebelled, went away. I don't know what he did, but he was completely gone. One day, it was Yom Kippurim, he was walking by the street in a Jewish neighborhood, and he heard the Tekiyat Shofar on the end of the Yom Kippurim. You know the last blow? He heard that Tekiyah. From that Tekiyah, he woke up and came back to Tshuva. Just from that Tekiyah, on the very end of the day of the Yom Kippurim. Somehow, that shook him up. He woke up and came back. So people can come back. If there's a little bit of a spark, for sure. And there's all sorts of things that can awaken them. But one has to be very, very careful with the attitude. Because the attitude can make things worse and more difficult for an individual to come back, to let go of that. That is the number one, that is one individual. The second individual is someone who has not made up his mind. Have you heard somebody like this? In English it's called an agnostic. Agnostic means I'm not an atheist, hallelujah, right? I'm not saying it's possible, but I have to be convinced. He has to be convinced. So the Torah says on this individual, Pasuk Yud here, I've given you life and death. Haberacha blessing and curses. And I tell you, choose life. You want to live? Choose life. Hashem is saying, why are you taking so long to make up your mind? It's so simple. There is good and there is evil. There is blessing and there is a curse. Choose life. Don't choose death. The best way to understand this idea of V'acharta b'chayim is with the following simple logical example. An atheist meets up with a believer. And the two are arguing about, is there Gan Eden and Gehenom or is there none? And the believer is telling the atheist, listen, it's a fact, our forefathers believed in it. If you do the mitzvot, you go to Gan Eden. If you do the averot, the sins, you will go to Gehenom. If you are tzaddik, you go one way. If you are rasha, you go the other way. Believe it. It can make a big difference in your life. And the atheist is saying, no, I don't believe it. It's impossible. You know how many say, has there anybody ever come back from there? Today, of course, many have come back. Through all sorts of near-death experiences. Today, there's a lot of evidence to prove this scientifically. But anyway, that's another whole different subject. So these two are arguing, yes, no, there's no proof, there's this, it's that. So the believer approaches him with the following logical argument. According to me, that I say there's Gehenom and there's Gan Eden, if it turns out that I'm right, then I will go to Gan Eden and you will go to Gehenom. Right? If it turns out that I'm wrong, fine. What happens? we both disappear. Like you were saying, after death, everybody disappears. So according to me, there's at least a 50-50 chance that I will go to Gan Eden and you will go to Gehenna. According to you, 100% you're going to Gehenna. According to you, 100% there's nothing. At least according to me, at least I'm 50% right? Whenever you have two opinions, you can't prove it, so there's a 50-50 chance that one of them is right. So I have a 50% chance of going to Gan Eden. You have a 0 chance. You're either way, whether I'm right or you're right, you're going to Gehenna. You're going to oblivion. That's a very logical statement. So that means if somebody believes, Uvacharta b'chaim, he has a 50% chance. I mean, we know that it's 100% true. But if you want to explain it logically, that he's going to receive a chelek olam haba, chelek in Gan Eden.
Many people do those
because it's convenient for them. Only because it's convenient. Most of the time when somebody still knows or is aware about this, it's only because it's convenient to believe however he wants to believe. Yeah, but especially olam haba. Somebody tells you, you come, Baruch Hashem, you haven't eaten the whole day because you're going to eat a big supper at the banquet, at the wedding hall. Right? A friend of yours happened to be in the kitchen, and he saw a lot of poison fall into the soup. And he comes out and warns everybody, don't eat the soup. And you're hungry. Are you going to listen to him? He says, how could it be? Poison in the soup? I mean, we would have heard about it. Right? But I saw it. Would you eat it? Would anybody here eat it?
So how can I eat?
If there's a 50% chance that there is poison in the soup, even if there was a 10% chance, right, you still wouldn't eat it. No. But people still do all sorts of averot, even though it's much more than 50% chance that they're going to go to Gehenna for you. Right? If there's poison,
But you said,
right, you would be careful.
Even if there's 1%, I would eat it.
I mean, the experience. The experience doesn't tell them anything about.
No, but it shows that the neshama continues to see that there's something else to the
I
other
mean,
than
they
the
see
physical
themselves,
body.
you explain.
Yes, they see that there's something else to the physical body. They don't see everything,
No.
obviously. But there's a lot of proof that there's something else beyond that. So Torah is telling the second individual who has a hard time making up his mind, it's simple, it's logical. Then there's a third individual, Pasuk Yud Daled. The third individual, he's the one that complains it's too difficult. Right? To do all these mitzvot, to do teshuvah. The Torah says, no, ki karov elecha davar me'od, beficha u'belvavecha la'asoto. It's very easy. How long does it take to put on tefillin? Say Kriyat Shema, say a few psukim, 5 minutes. Is that difficult? Is it difficult to make a beracha before you put something in your mouth and after you finish it? Is it difficult to rest on Shabbat? Resting is what everybody wants to do. They're looking forward to retirement. They're looking forward to retirement. So the Torah gave you a blessing once a day, once a week. You don't have to work. Is that difficult? Right? If you look at all the mitzvot, Judaism is not difficult. It requires a lot of discipline, responsibility, consistency. Of course, that of course is a certain awareness which makes it not easy to be Jewish. But it's not difficult. It's not as burden like something will make it appear to be. It's not impossible. Ki karov elecha davar. It's very simple. What does it mean in your mouth and in your heart? To do teshuvah, the first step is with the mouth, is with the heart. It's the remorse. And that's the most difficult part. Not everybody wants to admit that they were wrong. Not everybody wants to take the first step and say, I want to do teshuvah. Right? Right. But some people have a hard time even with the very first step. So it's easy because with teshuvah, one can begin with his mouth, with his heart, even before he begins to do ma'asim. So it's not an excuse to say it's difficult. It's actually easy. That's what the Torah is telling us. Okay, the next point is in Parashat Vayelech. In Parashat Vayelech, the Torah tells us, Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Yud Het.
Vayelech, what did he go? You went where?
To talk to Am Yisrael.
Oh,
The Torah says, okay, the next point in Parashat Vayelech is the point of Anochi Aster Astir. The Torah says that there will come a time, Anochi Aster Astir Panay B'yom Hahu, I will hide my face. Hakol hara she'asa ki panay Elohim acherim. This is a very famous pasuk. It is a characteristic, or it's a behavior that Hashem shows, called Hastarat Panim, or Ser Panim. He hides his face. Doesn't mean that he is gone, he's still around, but it appears to us that he's not doing anything about the situation. Like during the Holocaust. Now we see miracles too. We see problems. There's a lot of pain and suffering, but we have seen miracles. When there is a astir, it's very difficult to see any miracle. Even then there are miracles, but it's hidden even deeper. There are always miracles. There's always ashgacha prati, divine providence. Hashem watches over certain individuals. Even during the Holocaust, there were people who were miraculously saved in all sorts of ways.
Right.
But not everybody was aware of that. If you were looking at the whole picture, you saw terrible suffering. 6 million Jews, they were gassed, they were butchered, they were in all sorts of ways and methods they were killed. That was Hastarat Panim. There was Hastarat Panim many times throughout the Jewish history, especially during the Galut era, which is in itself a Hester Panim. Because we are in Galut, and so is the Shekhinah in Galut, in the diaspora. It is away from its home, the Bet HaMikdash. So this is a very, very difficult era, a very difficult time when there is Hastarat Panim. Because Hashem makes it so that it appears to us that He's not here. And obviously, the point of all of this is that Hashem wants that we should come to the conclusion, that we should come to the conclusion that the reason why all of this is happening to us is only because Hashem is not with us. Obviously, if He would be with us, He wouldn't allow all of these things. You don't deserve. On the other hand, there's a big Chilul Hashem. The Goyim make fun. Where is your God if you believe in Him, right? That is why one of the steps of Mashiach is Nekama Bagoyim. Gadilti v'kadishti. When we say Gadal v'kadash, right? Hashem's name will become great and sanctified. That is the Kiddush Hashem. When the world will all of a sudden wake up and see, oh, He did exist. He was around, right? But He did not always interfere with all the events. Of course they will, right? So right now it's difficult to see. So right now we have an Hastarat Panim. But hopefully, with the goal that people will come to the conclusion that that's the only solution to our problems. Not a fence between us and the Arabs, not diplomacy, right? Not any other solution that people might think, is worth trying. Teshuvah, that is the solution. That sometimes can only come about through this midah of hastarat panim.
What's the opposite of
Now, even in hastarat panim, as we said before, there is ashgacha perati, there is divine providence. Rabbis tell us that when there is a real hastarat panim, even the prayer, Hashem does not listen to our prayer. Hastarat panim means it appears as though He's not around. However, the rabbis tell us that the gates of tears have not been locked up. That if somebody cries out in earnest, sheds tears, cries out to Hashem, those prayers penetrate through. Those prayers are listened to. And if they're not listened to right now, because of the sins of the individual, they're still put aside, kept for another time. They're not lost in vain. So there's no doubt that a prayer that is done with sincerity, with kavanah, and with tears, it can be very, very effective, no matter what the situation of the individual is. So even if there's a hastarat panim, Kadosh Baruch Hu would listen to a prayer that was done with tears. Okay, let's see what's the next point here. Also in Parashat Vayelech, Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Chav Zayin, the Torah says, "Ki yadati את מריחה ואת עורבך הקשה, כן בעודני חי עמכם היום, ממרים הייתם עם השם ואהבתי אחריהם אותי." Moshe Rabbeinu decides to point out two individuals who Am Yisrael will have a difficult time with. These are not the individuals who the teshuvah is difficult for, as we said before. They have an attitude. These are two individuals who will give Am Yisrael trouble. One is called the Akshan, the stubborn. Moshe says, "Ki anochi yadati et meryecha v'et orvecha hakashe in dodeni chayim lachem hayom mamrim heitem Hashem." You were rebellious. You had a rebellious nature. You were a stubborn people. That is the first individual. And the second individual we'll get to soon is one who has a very weak emunah. These two individuals give Am Yisrael a lot of trouble. A person who has weak emunah, first of all, he himself is in trouble. He doesn't believe. But the problem is that he also may convince others. What do you think conservative and reform movement is? It's a lack of emunah. It could also be tavot. They have desires and all sorts of explanations and reasons of why to let go the tradition the way it is. Right? But basically we call it one word, convenience. That is the second individual. The first one is the stubborn individual. Stubborn meaning that he's not willing to listen so easily. Musar, people tell him, you are wrong, you made a mistake. We're talking about religious people right now. Remember, not the people who have an attitude, who are far, who are distant. We're talking about religious people who, because of their nature, right, either they like things the easy way, they want it more convenient. Let's compromise. Otherwise we're going to be second-class citizens. That's how it started in Germany. They couldn't marry the Germans. They couldn't work, right? They didn't have equal rights. They couldn't vote. So for convenience sake, it's not against the Torah if we dress like Germans. I mean,
Change the name.
yeah, but what happens after that? You're assimilated. You start speaking their language. You
Right.
change your name, and so today you have people with all sorts of non-Jewish names, not dressed Jewish. The only thing Jewish about them is their circumcision, which you can't see, hopefully, right? I mean, they cover that, right? Some places they don't, right? So what is it to see about his Jewishness? Unless he keeps Shabbat, unless he has some outer, exterior look. He doesn't practice it. So these are the two individuals. Okay, so the first one is a stubborn one. And what does the Torah tell us about the stubborn one? What do we do with people who are stubborn, who don't listen? Torah says right before that, the Jew would learn Torah, would have the Sefer Torah close to him, next to him. If he would have a regular shiur, the Torah would bring him back. The Torah would remind him. The Torah would tell him off. And he would listen to the Torah. He can't say, you're wrong, I disagree with you. People have an attitude, people are rebellious and stubborn because it's one-on-one. Whether it's against one's wife, whether it's against your friend, whether it's against another individual, people think that you want to fight them. You want to convince them. You want to take something away from them. You have an agenda. If a Jew has the Sefer Torah next to him, he will see that he's wrong. And he won't have to tell anybody. He's not embarrassed. Right? People are embarrassed and say, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm wrong. Lakoch Sefer Torah, they have it next to you. You're a stubborn man, have it next to you. The Torah will remind you, you're not the first stubborn man that ever lived. So was your father, and so was your grandfather, and look what happened to them. Look what has happened throughout Jewish history. We were punished because of our stubbornness. Hold the Sefer Torah next to you. The other individual is the one that is a weakling, the one that has a weak emunah, and that's in Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Yud Bet. For them, the Torah says as follows: Hakel et ha'am ha'nashim ve'nashim ve'atam ve'gelcha shebisharechem am yishmeu imam yilmedu v'yareu et Hashem Elokechem v'shamru la'asot kol midat Torah azot. Those who are weak in emunah, bring them together. Hakel. There was a mitzvah, right, every 7 years, right, a Sukkot time. Hakel. To bring everybody to the Beit HaMikdash. Everybody all over from Eretz Yisrael, the women, children too. Aliyah L'Regel was just the men, right? Aliyah L'Regel 3 times. But this, everybody came, the women, the children, at least once every 7 years, to see the Beit HaMikdash, to see the Kohanim and the Leviim, to hear the king, or whatever, to see that whole event, that whole ceremony. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them, we will have people who are weak in emunah, to them, Cheskuvim tzu, the pasuk says. Cheskuvim tzu. Let's find the pasuk over here. Strengthen them and encourage them. Bring them together. So people need continuous encouragement. People are depressed. People are weak in their emunah because of problems that occur to them. They're not just all of a sudden they wake up one morning, I don't believe, I have doubts. The weakness in the emunah comes about because people become depressed. People have problems. People are nervous. People are anxious about something. Cheskuvim tzu, strengthen them, give them encouragement, and bring them to the Beit HaMikdash, bring them to a Makom Torah, bring them to hear a shiur, a lecture or something. So let the words of the Torah enter them. So what these two individuals have in common, the stubborn and the weak one, is they need Torah. They need to be encouraged, they need to become impressed, because with time we become used to it and we forget it. We don't see the parting of the Red Sea every single day, right? We don't see tremendous miracles too often. So people need to be strengthened, people need encouragement. And that is the way the Torah tells us that we need to deal with them. Okay, now we go into Parashat Haazinu, Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Mem Zayin. The Torah says, Ki lo davar rek hu mikem, ki hu chayechem. There might be an individual who might say, the Torah does not interest. I'm interested in Greek philosophy, or whatever. Torah says, no, be careful with saying that. Ki lo davar rek hu mikem. The Torah is not something in fairy tales like some people want to say in some of the schools, in the non-religious schools. Agadot, they call it, tales, or myths, right? Ki lo davar rek hu mikem. The Torah reminds everybody, right? It reminds every one of us. It's been recorded many years ago for these individuals who think it's fairy tales. Lo davar rek hu mikem. These are not empty words. Ki hu chayechem. Your life depends on this. This is not like other cultures and other languages. What happens if somebody comes to a country, right, moves to America, doesn't speak English well, does not know American history well, will he lose out anything? Yeah, he's going to have a hard time getting his citizenship, maybe. Because to get your citizenship, you have to speak a little bit of English, maybe. You have to know who the first president of the United States was, maybe who Abe Lincoln was, and what July 4th is all about, right? Things like that. I mean, okay, you have to know a little bit, but you can get along very well in this country, as long as you have money, of course.
Right.
Without knowing the language and the culture. You don't need the language and the culture. Ki lo davar rek hu mikem. The Torah is not so. This is not empty words. This is not just a book of stories recording what happened to the Jewish people. Look at all the mitzvot that are here, all the good advice, and the history of the Jewish people, and the future, and what's going to be. Ki hu chayechem. Your life depends on this. And that is why, in the next pasuk, the pasuk right before it, the Torah says, because of the importance of the Torah, שימו לבבכם לכל הדברים אשר אנוכי מעיד בכם היום אשר תצוו את בניכם לשמור התורה והתורה הזאת. How many times does the Torah emphasize the importance of educating one's children? Because it's not a davar, because it's so important, you cannot just say, I'm going to learn, but I'm not going to teach it to my kids. Let them learn some profession. That's important too, but that does not take the place of the Torah. A father is mitzuveh to teach his child Torah, teach him a profession, to teach him how to swim. In other words, to teach him how to survive. That's what all these three things have in common. Right? How to survive. You need the Torah to survive. You need to know how to swim in case you're in water to survive, right? And you need a profession so you don't become a thief to survive. The Torah wants a father to teach his child how to survive. And therefore, there's an emphasis on Mishnantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. Give it over to your children. This should be a priority number one in life, not a Lexus. If you have money to spend it on your kids. Yeah, but religious education is so expensive. Who asked you to get a Lexus? But I'm only leasing it. So what? Use the $300-400 monthly payments to pay for the tuition. Get yourself a 1977 Chevy that has 4 good tires that can take you to work. Okay, I'll allow you to get an 87. Right? Mercedes Benz?
Yeah.
I think only the Persians, the Iranians, right? Mercedes and BMWs, yeah.
BMW,
Yeah,
right.
it's not a popular. Yeah, in this community, no. In this community, they're very patriotic. Only American cars, not German. Not American. Yeah, right. I know. Shtuyot. This is all nonsense, ridiculous, just to show. To show. So the Torah is telling us emphasis. Priority on education and giving over what you know, what you receive to your children. Because it's the lo davarek. Why? Ki hu chayechem. Your life depends on this. The rabbis give us a beautiful mashal how this is lo davarek hu mikem. They give us a mashal with, I think Rabbi Akiva gives this mashal with the fish and the fox. You ever heard of the mashal? Yeah. The fox, who's a very astute, clever animal, once he's hungry, he wants to eat. He goes over to the river, looks how the fish are so happy playing around, and he tells the fish, why don't you come out and play with me? We'll have a ball, we'll have a good time. You're all there by yourself. Come and join me. So the fish turned to the fox. We thought you were a lot smarter than that. Apparently you're a fool. Don't you realize that we need to be in the water? If we leave the water, we will die. Right? Forget about the fact that you're going to eat us up. Right? Right? Forget about that. If we leave the water, we will die. How could you even tell us something like this? The Torah is our source of life. Water is Torah, right? We cannot let go of water, right? We cannot let go of the Torah. Hu chayechem. That's the idea. That's the meaning of hu chayechem. It's your life, your survival as a Jew, as an individual, and as a nation depends on following the Torah. Okay, the last point is in Parashat Vzot Haberacha. Torah says, Torah tziva lanu Moshe Parasha Keilat Yaakov. Famous pasuk. This is, by the way, one of the pasukim that are taught to a child when he begins to speak. As soon as he begins to speak, to say a few words, teach him the Shema Yisrael. You can, of course, teach him to say Abba and Ima too, which most people do. But teach him the words Torah Tzivah Lanu Moshe Parasha Keilat Yaakov. It's a short pasuk, and it has a lot of content in it. Torah tells us that this book that we know as the Torah, which also includes, by the way, the Nevi'im, the Midrashim, the Zohar, the Gemarot, all of this is the Torah, which is the Torah Shabbatam and Torah Shabbateh. All of this is Torah. This Torah is a morasha, for the Keilah of Yaakov. What's a Morasha? It doesn't say Yerusha, which would be inheritance. It says Morasha. Morasha, I guess you can translate, it's an estate. It's your heritage. It's not just an inheritance. Why not? Because an inheritance, if the Torah would be an inheritance, you wouldn't have to do anything with it. Do you work hard for inheritance? No. If one's parents die, it comes to you. That's the law. The Torah is not exactly an inheritance that you just received from your father because he had it, you got it. No. The Torah, Morasha, means it belongs to you just as much as it belongs to your father. You were there in Har Sinai. If your father was not religious, you have the exact same responsibility. Don't say, well, my father didn't give it to me. He was not religious. I don't know. Torah Tivanu Moshe, Morasha Kilat Yaakov. It belongs to all of us. It's not an inheritance from your father that you receive it automatically. It belongs to you just as much as any other Jew. It's a Morasha. It's part of our heritage. Right? It's part of the state of everybody. That's the simple meaning of Morasha. Morasha therefore means that you have to work for it. You don't inherit it automatically. You have to learn it. You have to teach it to yourself. As the Rambam says, a father is supposed to teach his son Torah. He can send him to a school too. But what if the father didn't? What if the boy was an orphan? He has to teach himself. Same thing with Brit Milah. Father takes care of the Brit Milah. What if the boy never got a Brit Milah? He has to take care of his own Brit Milah. Bedin, the community has to take care of it. But let's say there was no community. When he grows up, as soon as he becomes mature and old enough and he knows the mitzvah, he has to do it to himself. Not do it to himself physically, but he has to get somebody to do it. Right? Same thing here. Morasha means that it's everybody's responsibility. No Jew can exempt himself. I didn't know. I wasn't taught. My father didn't give it to me. Morasha, it belongs to all of us. That's one meaning of why it says Morasha and not Yerusha. Another idea is Morasha is something that we also Morishim LaYeladim. An inheritance you may get from your father or mother, and then it may not pass on anymore. It stays with you and then it disappears with the attorneys, right? Or some other way that is spent, right? Morasha means something that we receive and we can continue to give it to our children. It's something which is continuously supposed to be transmitted to future generations. What the Torah is telling us over here, that this is something that we cannot afford. Exactly like you said, it's a chain that we cannot afford to have it broken anywhere. Imagine the fact that we are able today to read from the same Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu read from, the exact same ones, every single letter is the same, because they were very careful with the transmission of this Torah, with the Morasha. How many books have been printed and how many mistakes have been discovered and how many additions have been made to correct? The Torah cannot afford one letter to be missing. Otherwise everything can fall apart.
Or to be added.
Every single letter is important. No extra and no less. And no changed. That is why they were so careful and they said Sefer Torah is pasul. Right? If something is wrong. Because they were always careful that this should be transmitted correctly. And that is one of the reasons why the Torah Shebal Peh was not written.
No compromise.
Right? So it should not be misunderstood, or there should not be any mistakes in the transmission. Because it's very easy for errors to be found, transmitted from generation to generation, Jews being scattered all over speaking different languages. How is it that in Teman, in Bukhara, and in North America, and in Europe, and in South America, they all have the same Sefer Torah? Because they were careful, Morasha, to give it over exactly how it was given. No, not the Torah Shebichtav. Shebal Peh was given first verbal, oral, until it was written down. No, the tablets was first, we have the Sefer Dibrot, and then we have everything else written down. In a regular Sefer Torah, right? Moshe Rabbeinu.
The exact words that God narrated.
Exactly, letter for letter.
Just memorized for a long time.
No, this was always Bichtav. This you could not memorize from Peh. You needed to write this down.
Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it down, the first one. He wrote it down, the first one.
Moshe sat down and wrote 13 Sifrei Torah right before he passed away. One went together with the Luchot Abrit, and it's still there underneath the Har HaBayit, together with the Shivrei Luchot, with the pieces of the old Luchot. And then each tribe got one Sefer Torah. In the Midrash. All the details of the Sefer Torah are written in the Midrashim, right? We don't have all the details, but all the stories. For example, Avraham Avinu that was thrown into the Kivshan HaEsh, that was a major incident, but that's not recorded in the Torah. The Torah only recorded what needed to be recorded, for whatever reason. Everything else is in Torah Shebal Peh, which consists of Midrashim, Zohar, right, Kabbalah.
But you know for sure that the first Sefer Torah written by Moshe Rabbeinu was put with the Luchot. You know that for himself.
Yeah, of course. Now, there was one difference. between the Sefer Torah written back then, except for the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote. The Sefer Torah that were written throughout the generations up until Ezra HaSofer, which is the end of the first temple, beginning of the second temple era, was written in the old Hebrew script, not in the Hebrew script. This is called Tav Ashuri. There's a Kav Ivri and a Tav Ashuri. So that's the only difference that you will find in between a Sefer Torah that was written up until the destruction of the first temple.
Scroll, I think that's the old one.
There may be both scripts were used. That's the only difference.
When you say different, I mean the letters look different.
Yeah, it's the old Hebrew script, the one that looks more like Greek.
The same?
The words are exactly the same.
The words were first the same.
Everything is exactly the same, except the letter Yud looks this way instead of this way.
So it's the same exact letters.
Right, exact same
Whether
thing.
misinterpreted.
No way. Everything is exactly the same.
During that time, it's the Greeks and the Rome.
Right.
That's somebody wrote it.
No, the Torah was translated into other languages at one time. That was a sad day for Am Yisrael because now it's subject to interpretation, and to other meanings, and to words which may not accurately reflect what is written. So it was not exactly correct. The last point of
I heard that they were forcing them to take out parts or
right, there was some censorship in the Gemara, not in the Torah.
the Gemara.
Yeah, remember the Goyim also respected the Torah as the word of God. Today too.
Even
Right. Not all of them, but many of them.
How's that? The Gemara, I wasn't exactly sure where it's going.
Some things in the Gemara or in other books were censored out because they spoke against Christianity, or they were perceived to be against Christianity. But the Torah is exactly the way it was. We have people who are called Sofrim. You know what Sofrim means? Not only scribes. Sofrim means lispor. They used to count the letters. They knew exactly how many aleph, how many pays, how many total, right, letters in the Torah. Right? What?
punctuation.
Punctuation was put in later because people needed to know how to pronounce it correctly, right? Because in the Torah you can't put in punctuation. That was one of the items that is balpeh, that was kept oral. Right? Now their pronunciation was being confused as it is today. You have Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, and Bukharim, and Temanim, and Persians who pronounce it slightly differently. So the nekudot, the vowels were inserted in the Chumashim only, right? So it could be recorded for future generations what they are, even though it's not accurate today, because we pronounce it, Mashiach will come, it will become clarified again. Not only was that inserted, but also where the pasuk ends. That was very important, because in the Chumash, in the Sefer Torah, you don't exactly see, too much, because there are no vowels, there are not two commas or periods, there are no ta'amim, how to sing it, which is also important. So there are a lot of details that are not here that is all part of Torah Shebal Peh. This is all part of the Parasha. Anyway, the last point is a very important point. Torah tells us that this Torah is a Morasha, Hilat Yaakov, for the entire congregation of Yaakov. Not only to you. If you know it, you have to share it with others. You can't keep it to yourself. But it tells us more than that. Not only does it belong to all of Am Yisrael, and all of Am Yisrael has therefore an obligation to learn this Torah. It's a mitzvah to learn the Torah, but it's a morasha. Al tikrei morasha ela me'urasa. Don't read it morasha. In other words, there's another way to read it. Me'urasa. The Torah should be unto you like a bride, like you are engaged to the Torah. Fiancé, right? Like you are engaged to it. Betrothed. Yeah. This is a very important point. And that is what the rabbis say, the Talmud Torah keneged kulam. They speak about the importance of learning Torah. You don't give it up. You don't give up a shiur just for anything. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Keneged all the mitzvot. Because we have to feel as though we are engaged to it. We can't let go of it. If one has this attitude, then he will never feel that the Torah is all a burden. People who begin to give up a shiur Torah, begin to give up mitzvot because they treat it as a burden. It's difficult to be Jewish. This is difficult for me to do. I want things to be a little more easygoing, right? Because we're treating it as a burden. If one would treat it as though he's engaged to it, this is my fiancé.
Pleasure. I
depend on this.
Right.
I need this. I can't live without it. Then it would be a real morasha for him and for his family. If the father Halila treats the Torah as a burden, as an all, then what is the child going to do? How is the child going to look at the Torah? It was difficult for daddy. Daddy didn't wake up in the morning. He doesn't care. He doesn't go to a shiur. Then there will be a break in that family. The rabbis tell us that if there's 3 consecutive generations of Torah in one family, the Torah will not ever stop in that family. It will always come back. Meaning, if you had 3 generations of Torah in the family, dedicated to the Torah will never cease to exist in that family. So, therefore, if it happened that the 4th generation, the guy was weak, he went into business and he left everything, don't worry. His son, the 5th generation, the Torah will come back. Hashem will make sure that once you have 3 generations steady, with regularity, Torah will never let go of that family. Anyway, this is an extremely important point, is one last one of Murasa, because the rabbis tell us not only Talmud Torah Keneged Kulan, they tell us that when we look to marry off our children, we should look as number 1 for someone, not who has money, but one who's a Ben Torah, Talmid Chacham, so that the Torah should stay in the family. Money, if he has it now, he will not have it tomorrow necessarily. Beauty, after several pregnancies, let's see how beautiful she is. Right? Baruch Hashem, Jewish women are beautiful even after the pregnancy. But the pregnancy takes away a little bit.
You say burden.
Yeah.
Okay, do I say I have to get up at 4 o'clock? I have to.
Yeah.
It's not a burden, but it's
difficult. It's not easy. So you go to sleep. You go to sleep early. You go to sleep early.
Yeah, you want.
You go to sleep early. No, but the point of Meurasa is more than that. It's not just not making it a burden. You have to see the beauty of it. Obviously, certain things.
The reward.
Not only the reward. Certain things are more difficult than others. Certain things are more difficult than others. For example, waking up early for Selichot. Yeah. Certain things are more difficult than others. Giving tzedakah for somebody who's stingy by nature.
Very difficult.
By nature. So of course, but these are challenges.
So we don't call them burden.
But you know what? After you woke up for the Selichot, and you prayed with the minyan, and you had your cup of coffee afterwards, you feel great.
Oh, sure.
You feel an accomplishment.
Right.
So it's only the very beginning that you feel bad. That's siman, that is the Yetzer Hara trying to.
That can make you go to sleep again.
That it's not a true burden, it's a Yetzer Hara. However, it does happen. If you had 2 hours of sleep last night, that can happen to anybody, then of course you can't blame anybody. You know, it could happen that you got busy 2 hours of sleep, you had to sleep. That's something else. But otherwise,
you have to fight that too.
Of course you have to fight it, but 2 hours, it's more understandable. It's more understandable. Right?
If you have Riyat Shamayim, you're going to fight that, I go to get up.
Anyway,
if you have Riyat Shamayim, and you know that this is something you have to do, 2 hours sleep, you're still going to get up.
Of course you're going to try. But it's acceptable. It's understandable if you did.
So we don't compromise. There is no acceptance.
You're right. But sometimes it's difficult, depending on the circumstances. But remember, there are certain things that we never compromise whatsoever. Yarek val yavor chalila, to do something which is against the Torah. But certain things, obviously, depending on the circumstances. Let's say you don't have a lulav in the throat. You live in Eastern Europe. I mean, people went out of the way. They wanted to travel to Italy. Some things are beyond our means. It's too difficult to do. The Torah wants to see dedication and devotion. If a Jew tries as hard as possible, even when things are difficult, he shows that he cares for it. He shows that this is important to him. He shows that this is not a burden. That is the best way to transmit. Torah is telling us, if you want to be able to transmit to future generations the Torah, you have to show that you like it, that you're interested in it. You have to be excited. Nobody should ever hear from your mouth a complaint about the Torah and Mitzvot. It's definitely not your child. Make a Kiddush Hashem by showing how grateful we are and how thankful we are that Kadosh Baruch Hu chose us from all the nations.